Shooting at night as an indie filmmaker with no budget is arguably one of the hardest things you can do, and in this video I'll be showing you exactly how I'm preparing for said outdoor night shoot for my next short, White Trail. First up, let's talk about the script and the short. So for those of you who don't know, we are making 3 short films in 3 months during the summer, and this is the second film. First one is live on my channel, you can go check it out, and this film is called White Trail. Most of the film is happening at night around the campfire. It's a group of 5 or 6 campers. They are chilling around a fire, sharing stories, having a good time. Then one of them goes off to take a pee, and then something happens when you have a kind of a twist there, but I'm not gonna spoil too much, so you have to watch the film when it comes out. Generally, most of the film is gonna be shot at night. I believe we have only one scene that happens in the morning as they're packing their campsite away, and there are 3 short day scenes with only the main actor, but they're gonna be fairly simple. Location scouting is arguably one of the most important parts when shooting a film outdoors, especially at night. You're gonna want to do at least 1, if not more, location scoutings. First of all, ideally, if you're shooting at night, you're gonna go during the day, check out the location in full detail when you can see everything. So you can see, you know, the surroundings, if the ground is safe, stuff like that. Then you're ideally gonna go there again at night to see how the location looks at night. Is it too dark? Is it too bright? Are there any street lights? If you don't need street lights, stuff like that. So location scouting is one of the most important things that you're gonna do for your exterior shooting film. And of course, permits if you're not shooting on private land. That is kind of a big deal. For our short film White Trail, we are shooting at a private house that is a vacation home from Nina. So that's kind of how we are solving the problem for the permits and location stuff. I already went there a couple of times. I was there in the day, I was there in the night, so I know generally how the things look. We also shot one film in that forest. It was filmed for a film. It's called Broken Front Lines. It was filmed that is in the background of Circle of the Soul. It is also on my channel, not Circle of the Soul, but Broken Front Lines, so you can go check it out. I just kind of know generally the forest and how the things look there because I was there, as I said, a couple of times. So that's kind of what solves the problem of location scouting and, you know, not knowing where you're shooting exactly. For the gear unpacking is pretty much everything standard that I have, so Lumix S52X, 9 light power tubes, the spotlight, small rig long battery RGB light, and the plus with all of those lights is they are battery operated. So I'm gonna charge them a night before, and hopefully they are gonna be, you know, pretty lasting the entire night. I have 2 batteries for the camera, I have 4 lights, so I'm gonna try to not use all 4 of them at the same time, maybe in pairs. So we're gonna use 2, and then when they or if the battery runs out, I'm gonna use the 2 next. We're gonna use them sparingly, and we're not gonna leave them on in the middle of takes, especially if I'm just setting up the next scene. I'm not gonna leave them, you know, to be on full blast because I want to save as much battery as I can. So pretty much I'm gonna use for my gear everything that's battery powered, and ideally I'm gonna ask MB Grip, the guys who gave us the equipment for Circle of the Soul, if we can get InstaGrid. That is pretty much just a big ass battery with the power outlet, so we can plug in a smoke machine. That would be great, but we can work without it. And if worst comes to worst and all batteries run out, we can plug in pretty much the light in it and go for pretty much as long as we want because the battery is freaking massive. So for lighting plan for this short, it's pretty simple. I want to do most of the short to be lit with practical lights. As I've said, most of the short is happening around the campfire in their, you know, camp. They're chilling, roasting marshmallows, stuff like that. So I want it to be lit mostly naturally from the campfire that's actually gonna be there. Maybe I can shoot through it, you know, get some interesting framing, and, you know, they're gonna be really nicely lit from the front by that campfire. It's gonna, you know, take some, you know, placing them to make it look more cinematic or stylized, but I believe most of it will be lit practically with the campfire, and then I'm gonna use these 9 light power tubes, you know, to give them some edge lights or bring some details up and stuff like that. For part of the film where the guy is separated from the campfire and the rest of the group, I also want it to be pretty naturally lit with practicals. So he's gonna have, you know, his flashlight, and he's gonna be pretty much lighting the scene with that flashlight. So I'm gonna have to use 9 light power tubes, you know, kind of to bring the forest up a bit and make it a bit brighter, but not too much, because I'm hoping that a lot of things we can do great with just practicals and kind of a natural lighting. I'm gonna try to shoot his scenes with when he is alone in the forest, not too late, so we do have maybe some moonlight or not maybe kind of a blue hour, not fully, you know, night. Ideally, we're gonna see how that's gonna go. But as I said, as a backup plan, I have night lights that I'm gonna, you know, place around the forest, and we can kind of light everything up to make it look fairly nice. For scheduling, it's gonna be quite complicated because they are only night shoots. So pretty much the crew call is gonna be at around 7, you know, in the evening, and then the guys are gonna get there. We as a production team are gonna set up tents and stuff like that. And we're pretty much gonna start shooting since it is still summer. The sun sets really late and rises really early, so we're not gonna have much wiggle room to film and, you know, to kind of play around. And we're gonna have to be pretty dialed in if we want to get everything that we want. So we're shooting 2 nights. First night is the night with the campfire and more people and the extras, and the second night is with the guy in the forest where he's pretty much alone. So we're divided that into 2 shoot nights. Hopefully they're not gonna be the entire night shoot, but the problem is, since the sun is setting super late, the sun starts setting, I believe, at 8:30, not earlier, and then we have, you know, the golden hour and the blue hour, and if we would like to get, you know, completely night, we're gonna have to wait till like 9 or 10 to start shooting those, you know, actual night scenes. Since it is summer and the sun is rising, I believe, pretty early, I think maybe even about around 5 or 5:30, but by the call sheet we should be done by 3:30, and I took liberty into, you know, giving us a lot of wiggle room when shooting the scenes. I put like, for every frame I put like 20 minutes, and then there's 30 minutes between each scene, you know, for setting up lights, camera and stuff like that if we're gonna need it. So just to be, you know, super clear, we do not have a lot of scenes to shoot and not a lot of, you know, shots to get, but it's still gonna be, you know, kind of a race with time, since we can't just, you know, take a break for like 2 hours if we feel like we are ahead, because we are pretty much racing against the sun. So that's for the first night, and then the second day pretty much is gonna be morning shoot. That's gonna, like, the crew's gonna hate me, I know. We're gonna have a night shoot, I believe, and I hope we're gonna be done by 3 in the night. And then the next day we're shooting around 7 or 8 in the morning to get the morning scenes. With them, you know, waking up and packing everything up and stuff like that. Then the extras get to go home, and with the main actor we're shooting the day scenes, you know, somewhere around 10 or 11, stuff like that. And then we get to, like, hopefully go to sleep and just recharge, because right after that we are shooting night 2. Again, same thing, crew call is around 7, the other actor is gonna come around 7, and then we're pretty much waiting it for it to, you know, be dark. We'll see if we'll be able to shoot something in the golden/blue hour, since we're in the forest. So in the forest the night might come a bit faster than in the city, but we'll see. Everything pretty much just depends on the sun. And as the last thing I'm gonna do that you have to take into consideration when producing an outdoor night short is, again, contingency planning. So what if the lights fail? That's why I have 4. So if one runs out of battery, I have 3 more in the backup. Hopefully we're gonna get the Instagrid that I talked about, that if all else fails we can just plug it in and run off, you know, on those lights. What if the weather goes bad? I'm gonna have a lot of tarps, you know, to just quickly cover everything up. So if the rain stops at some point, we can continue shooting, and just be prepared for like all of the worst case scenarios. You know, lights are failing, batteries are dying. What if it's raining? What if someone gets sick? There's gonna be at least 2 of us with the cars and driver's licenses there, so if something goes horribly wrong, we can, you know, just drop them off with the car to safety and to civilization. So those are kind of the things that you have to take into the consideration when shooting remotely, because a lot of things can go wrong, and you as a producer are tasked to make sure that if things go wrong, you are calm and you know what to do and how to do it, and you can do it like instantly without panicking and being like, oh my god, somebody hurt themselves, what are we gonna do? And of course, you know, stuff against mosquitoes, stuff against, you know, ticks, simple stuff like that you might not think of at first, but are gonna, you know, compile in the end. And of course there's gonna be crafty on set with, you know, a lot of snacks, drinks. And of course I want to keep my crew happy, so I'm gonna get caffeine for everybody. For us who are shooting 2 nights in a row, I'm gonna get a bit more. For the extras, I'm gonna get a bit less, because we are funding this from our own pockets. But still, I want to, you know, since we are putting people in an inconvenient thing, you know, you have to stay up all night and shoot in the middle of nowhere. at least what I can do is make them as comfortable as I can make them. So I know that there's gonna be a bathroom nearby, I'm gonna have snacks on set, I'm gonna have caffeine, water, and all of the pretty much important stuff that you need to have when shooting remotely to keep your crew happy. Because if they are happy, this shoot is gonna go super easy, and if they are not happy, then well, there's no movie. If you're planning your first outdoor night shoot with no budget, I hope some of these tips helped you. If you have some other tips for outdoor night shoots, please leave them down in the comments. Stick around because there are 2 more shorts coming this summer. Thank you for watching, and I will see you around.